I think my first official song, other than the ones I wrote when I was 5 years old, but the first, I think, real song that I wrote was right after my daughter was born, and that was 31 years ago. And it was about the birth of my son and the birth of my daughter in a song, because they both had very different types of births, even though they were both 25 hours long. So great material for a song. The song is about 25 hours long. No, the song isn't that long, but in fact, the song is quite short. But it's one I've never recorded. With the stacks of songs that I've written that I haven't recorded yet, I've got about 10 CDs waiting to be done. They will be. Oftentimes we're asked as vocalists, and I think all musicians are asked what their inspiration is, and particularly I think when vocalists are asked that question, oftentimes the response is expected to be another vocalist. And there are so many wonderful vocalists that truly inspire me, but I have to say, for me, when I was really doing my jazz listening, which started when I was overseas, when I was in Vietnam, and you had AFRS radio, and you had 1 hour of jazz, you had 1 hour of country, you had 1 hour of this, you had 1 hour of whatever it is on AFRS. And I was attuned to the jazz hour. And it was Paul Desmond. Paul Desmond was my great inspiration, because the way he plays the saxophone, the melodic lines, he was singing all the time, and he had a tone. Not only, Stan Getz and so many of the other great, John Coltrane, they're just this legion of brilliant saxophone players. But Paul really spoke to me, and then if it were a vocalist, I would have gone to Johnny Hartman, Joe Williams for his heart, and Anita O'Day. Oh my goodness, Anita O'Day. Trinity, I'm so thrilled that Trinity was chosen to be in the Real Book, Philadelphia Real Book. It's a very complex song, although seemingly simple on the surface, I suppose. If you just kind of listen to it, it's got a great groove. I'll tell you, Aaron Graves, collaborating with Aaron Graves is one of the gifts of a lifetime. To be born in the same time and space that Aaron and Lee Smith and Butch Reed and all of these terrific, Barry Sames, who I've been able to collaborate with, and Steve Giordano and so many others. But Trinity came at a time when I was really still reeling from the death of my daughter's best friend, who was 14 years old, and she was killed in a murder-suicide of the entire family of 5, and she was 14. And then a couple of years later, I got very involved with the gun violence prevention movement as a volunteer. I wound up taking over the Brady campaign chapters. I'm the one who raises their hand, yes, we have to do something. And I didn't know really the extent of gun violence in this country. But I did know how much music could be used in working with young people, how much the music was healing and healing and healing, as I did so much work in communities and using music as the springboard to get into that place. And then I realized I had to do my own healing, which I really hadn't done. And I was... It was a very, very eclectic, Leonard Cohen, out there kind of place, and it was more a true poem that is a question of what is our Trinity. We all believe in something, but I was having my doubts of what do we believe in right now at all, because we're not believing in human life. We're not believing in protecting our children. We're not believing in so many things. What is our Trinity? We talk about that a lot, and in every one of the great religious and spiritual traditions, there is a trinity of some sort. And there are trinities everywhere, though. Everywhere you look, it seems that the universe conspires to put things in threes. And even though we have 7/4 measures in that song, it's very interesting, rhythmic tune. There's no 3/4 in there. I don't know why, but there's a complexity, but also a simplicity. But maybe it will just ask people to ask themselves questions. For this concert, it is, again, a thrill to be able to be on stage with Aaron Graves. I feel Aaron, having collaborated with him on the CD, which is called Trinity, and we wrote 5 original songs together for that, which was wonderful, and did the arrangements on the others, and did he was so willing to take songs that were not considered a jazz canon song and say, okay, yeah, let's see what we can do with that, and rearrange them. And so having him on stage as the brilliant musician that he is, and music director that he is, and arranger, and just there's a very big spiritual connection with the music. And for me, that's very important for anybody that I'm on stage with. We have to all connect, not have the same spiritual beliefs, but we've got some kind of connection that's greater than. And the music definitely is that connector, but there's a heart connection as well. And I think most jazz musicians do have that, and we've got this blessing to have so many of those people here. But Aaron also being probably the best pianist a vocalist could ever want. If you want to have somebody who really is listening to the vocalist and everybody else, Aaron is your man. Butch is this vibrant, beautiful, glowing presence to have, smiling, beaming. He's there, he's listening, he doesn't overplay. I mean, vocalists can sometimes get into a thing where, I've had drummers who are brilliant, but they forget there's a vocalist on stage. It's no diss against the drummers out there. It's just they're into their own place, and sometimes that happens. Lynn Riley, oh my gosh, Lynn and I've performed with several times. It is Women's History Month here in March of 2019, and she is a reed player par excellence. And her ideas, what she brings, is so terrific. And listening to all of this being created in this live environment, this mandala that we're creating, and that just goes off into the universe. And then you have that rock of Lee Smith, this solid glue, putting everything together, his consistency, his caring. It's so deep. It's deep. It is. That's sometimes a trite saying in the jazz world, but it's so true. There's a profundity, there's a depth to all of these musicians, and then you put them all together, and there's such love that it's, how could I not ask these folks to be here? I'm honored they said yes. Coming to Philadelphia from having lived everywhere just about in the world, not Antarctica, but because of my father's work, the way we grew up, we moved every 2 years or less somewhere around the world. Didn't grow up in the United States very much. Always was the new kid on the block. Seemed to me that everybody lived that way. I was surprised later in life to find out that most people didn't live that way. I loved it. It had its pluses. However, when I came to Philly, and I'd been living in New York, I came back to Philadelphia, and it became my home. A home in a way that I'd never had a home. And the jazz community here is so special. It is so embracing. It was so warm, and you can feel that they care about everybody, they listen to everybody, they want to help everybody out. I do want to say I wish the club players would love the jazz musicians as much as the jazz musicians love themselves and pay us a lot more than what we're worth. You could edit that out if you need to. That's my one political little statement there. Got to support these musicians. And you're on a gig, and everybody is willing to teach and help, and there's no judgment. And there's so many, like at La Rose, when the Monday nights that being held at La Rose, or different Mike Boone, and so many different musicians who are doing so much to make sure the music is out there and everybody has an opportunity, and the nurturing of young people, which is incredible. It's not the old heads are there and saying, don't, we're going to still be here, out of my way. No, it's inclusive. It brings everybody in, and what a beautiful lesson in life that is. So I'm very grateful to Philadelphia. I'm very grateful. This is where I've chosen to raise my children. This is where I've chosen to base my music, and has been the place where I've written all of the music that I've written myself has all come from being here in Philadelphia. Having Jazz Bridge as a service for the jazz musicians, but not just the jazz musicians, for the community of jazz lovers, and for the city of Philadelphia. You cannot discount how important this startup little thing. I remember when Suzanne Cloud and I sat, and she was talking about starting this, and I was starting a nonprofit, and she just, boom, she went and included, Wendy and now Brenda and Jeff and Jason, and there's so many people, and I can't not say how Jim Miller, who we have just recently lost so suddenly, was such a major part of this. His heart, his honesty, his musicianship, his caring, just profound all the way across the board. And we have all benefited in so many ways from Jazz Bridge. And all we can say is please make sure you keep supporting this amazing and unique organization. There's nothing like it in the entire US of A, and I don't think anywhere else. So it deserves all of our support in every way that we can. Thank you, Jazz Bridge.